Hey, good afternoon. Doug Pagitt Radio, Hour 2, just after 1 o'clock on July 3rd. Our little holiday weekend, 4th of July weekend. And we're joined here in the studio by Heatherlyn and our friend John. We're going to get to John here in a minute, but for the first bit of time here, we're going to chat with Heatherlyn. Heatherlyn is a musician, and she has a new album coming out. But now here's the deal. You know that often we have religious writers and science writers and people who are writing about philosophy and so on that we have in the second hour. And every once in a while, we're privileged to have in-studio musicians who make music here during our conversation. So Heatherlyn is going to be singing for us here in the studio. But we're going to chat a little bit about her album, because she has an album that's kind of available now to certain special communities of folks.
Just if you go online.
Yeah, if you go online, you can get it. In September, you'll be able to get it everywhere. But we want to reward those who want to be part of the Heatherlyn life early on. So she's going to share some music. We're going to chat about the album and all of that. I want to say all of that at the beginning, because we want you to head over there now to heatherlynmusic.com, or if you like that Facebook, go over to facebook.com/heatherlynmusic. All right, Heatherlyn, tell us a little bit about the album. It's called Story Dwelling.
Yeah,
and tell us about it.
Yeah, well, you could come to the studio right now, too. I think everyone in the studio has a copy of the album.
Yes, and they're for sale right now. In fact, this one.
You're the special people who get it now. So it'll be released officially September 13th, 2011. We're giving some time for reviewers to check it out and some bloggers to check it out, and hopefully do a little bit of story dwelling in the blogging as they read each other's reflections on the interplay of their story, and from the different voices and vantages and vocations.
So you're stalling out on the release of it because you want more folks to know about it, make a big deal. That makes all the sense. So it's like people that have a wedding, and they've got a wedding, and they tell you 6 months ahead of time that there's a wedding date. Save the date, and so we want you to all get excited about it. It's called Story Dwelling, and you mean something really particular by that. You've been thinking about the title of this for a long time. Tell us a bit about what you're getting at with this Story Dwelling.
Yeah, well, it comes down to, I think, cultivating a courageous and compassionate curiosity for one another instead of
words all start with C.
Yeah, I like alliteration.
It's cultivating a courageous
and compassionate curiosity for one another.
I like it.
And learning to listen with love. See, I like a little alliteration. Can you say that 10 5?
Yeah, right.
You like a little alliteration. And so you're trying to do something more than just make songs and sell an album. You're trying to create a vibe. You're trying to create a reality out of this. I mean, it's a big goal.
Yeah. What I really hope is that the music will inspire and maybe encourage us to be about a movement and a way of living, of going about our lives instead of settling for assumptions. A little bit, addressing a little bit of what you're talking about in the "You've Got to Be Kidding Me," instead of going with the political polarization that we're told is the right way to think about one another. It's going, no, we probably have a little bit more in common. There's probably a little bit more understanding that can be found if we're willing to. What was that?
I don't know.
Did you have another musician coming in?
I don't know where that sound came from.
That's brilliant. If we're willing to listen to ourselves, first of all, listen to our own story and share authentically, and then if we're willing to listen to one another and the stories that shape our perspectives and our persuasions, because there's probably more than just the servicey stuff that we hear about all the time. There's probably more to the story. So, little story dwelling, being present to the story and spending time together.
So,
especially people who are different from ourselves.
And you're a musician, so you've wanted to tell the stories of people's lives and the story that we're all living in. You want to do that through music. Talk a little bit about why music and what role music plays in helping someone to narrate an understanding of their life and the world that they want to see.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I mean, I am a singer, first of all. Like, that's probably the best thing I have to give to the world. That's the best way I can kind of shine a light and maybe add some goodness to the world. And music is a wonderful thing because it reaches to deeper places of our soul and the inner core of our brain. I think is actually a scientific reality that music can reach deeply like
Meaning
that.
When you listen to music, there's a part of your brain that's activated and that is engaged that's different than when you're listening to our conversation right now. So if someone had a brain scanner on while they were listening to the show, they would have one part of their brain activated while we're talking, and when the music happens, a different experience in your neurological pathways is what's kicking in.
Right.
And it might
I'm not a scientist, so I don't entirely know about
I'm not either, but I do pretend to be.
Well, I am a scientist, and I agree. You guys are on the right track. Yeah.
Well,
okay, wonderful. Thank you.
And the reason that becomes important to some of our minds is maybe the solutions are going to be found when that part of the brain is activated, as opposed to the solutions that can be found when the other part of your brain is activated. Like there's a different, literally a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
And you have a different experience. And I'm sure that when you're making the music of an album, that you're active in one way, and then when you're having to do all of the maybe production work that goes into it and some of the more technical things, you have a really different relationship to the music.
Yeah.
Is that true? Is that right?
Absolutely. That's really true. And, a lot of times people will come up to me after a show and they'll be like, you just made me cry. Or, or they're trying to articulate something from the experience and they really don't have words for it. And that I think is because they were moved in a deeper way and they resonated with something that they heard and that they felt and they can't really describe it. So it's like that's.
And you're going to sing a couple of songs for us. Which one do we get to hear first here in the studio?
Well, I was still kind of trying to decide.